everybody! This is Liz from A Lizard Reads, and I'm so excited to be with you guys again, and thank you for watching. Today, I want to talk to you guys about my favorite thus far nonfiction reads. There's a few, some range from history and to autobiographies. And I did leave out self-help things because I think that's a totally different genre and not something I want to get into. So, here we go. Let's do it. My favorite reads. The first one, number one, is Yes, Please by Amy Poehler. This book I read for the first time long time ago. Probably 4 years ago, and I fell in love with it. I had never watched Parks and Rec. My husband had, and I'd always been like, that show is stupid. You shouldn't watch it. And then for a time, I would watch the funny, not watch, but see the funny images that they had pulled off the show and put on Pinterest. And so I recognized that the show was funny, but I didn't like Amy Poehler, and I didn't want to see the, Parks and Rec. And then I read this book and I got to know her experiences from filming it, her experience just to become an actress at all and a comedian, and then her experiences with Saturday Night Live and with trying to be a comedian, touring. The first time she meets the actor who plays Ron in Parks and Rec is hilarious, and I think it's worth reading the book just to experience that, because then you watch him in Parks and Rec and you're like, oh my goodness, but he was this way when she met him the first time. So if you want to know, teaser, go read the book. And it was just a funny read, very good to see how she went through things. She writes this book about the same time that she's going through her divorce, so you get to see her struggling with that. She talks about how she became a mother, like her experiences through that, which was something that was poignant to me as a mom. It was a great read. I've read a lot of autobiographies and things like that from actors or presidents, things like that. And this one's my favorite, I think, because it is funny as you're going through it. It's not just like a list of huge successes, it's a list of hardships and things like that. And which I guess is in most of them, but she just puts a funny spin to it, which really helps you feel like you're not really just sitting there reading a long memoir about something that's a little difficult. And so it was just a beautiful read, and I really enjoyed going through it. Number two is kind of self-helpy, as close as we're going to get to that, but it is Braving the Wilderness by Barone. I am obsessed with Brene Brown. As someone who struggled with mental illness in the past, and to this day, she's helped a lot with how I handle it and how I cope and move forward. All of her books are amazing, but this one just was the one I read most recently, and I thought it was beautiful because it helps you remember why we're here, like why we keep on trying, why we keep on doing these new things. Like, I wouldn't have ever thought to do BookTube and to be here talking to you guys without people like her reminding me that that's what life is about. It's trying new things, it's reaching out, it's making yourself vulnerable to the hard because you want the great and you want that extra feeling of amazingness because you tried hard and you worked hard for it. And so I think that's beautiful. That's something that I want to strive for in my life. If you haven't read anything by Brene Brown or listened to anything about her or any of her studies or anything like that, you need to. She's amazing. And she can help you in your life or with your friends or anything like that. And so it's just great, and I highly recommend it. Book number 3 is How I Killed Pluto and Why It Had It Coming by Mike Brown. This was not something I ever thought I would read, but when I got invited to join my book club that I'm in, and I've been in for about 2 years, this was the very first book we read, and I was blown away because it wasn't something that I would have read. It's about the astronomer Mike Brown, who also teaches at Caltech, who found a dwarf planet that made it so that Pluto was docked from planet status to dwarf planet status. And he tells his experiences through life and through work in astronomy about how this came to be, how he came across the discovery that made it so Pluto got knocked off the planet status. And as somebody who was still in school when Pluto got knocked off, I was furious. It was the only planet outside of Earth that I could always remember. You know, I could remember the Sun, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Pluto. And I always knew where Pluto was, you know, the Sun, Earth, Pluto. And I don't know where the other ones are. And then it got killed, you know, taken off. I was so mad when Pluto got knocked off, but now I know why. And it was from this book. So I highly recommend reading it. It wasn't too long. I did listen to it on Audible, and I'm pretty sure it was narrated by the author on Audible. Maybe. Not positive on that. I think it's a beautiful book. Not really beautiful, but he does tell his experience of meeting his wife and having his daughter, and how those things tied into his discovery of the planet that disproved Pluto as a planet. So it's a pretty cool read, and I highly recommend it. Book number 4 is The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. This was another one of my book club reads. We do a couple of nonfiction a year, and this one was awful and amazing at the same time. You know, when you're reading a book like that where you're like, I hate this, but I won't stop reading it, and I love it, and I'm gonna tell everybody I know to read it because it's amazing, but I hate it. That was this one. This is about the watch dials. If you don't know, radium's very poisonous to the human body. The only thing though is that it's slowly poisonous to the human body. So all those submarine parts and watches and things like that they would paint radium onto to make it glow in the dark before, you know, electric watches, it had radium on it, and that's what was making it glow. And this is a story about the watch painters, which were these women working in the early 1900s and painting them, and they would paint them and use their mouths to like point the brush and then paint on the dials. And after about 10 to 15 years of them having this job, well, not even 10 to 15 years, it was like after 5 years, these women were dealing with horrible side effects, like their teeth just falling out and their jaws breaking to pieces and their bones rotting and all this gross, horrible stuff. And these women are like, well, it's all of us who worked at this radium factory. And the radium factory people, unfortunately, were kind of like, no, radium's good for you. Don't you read the magazines? We advertise radium as a health tonic. There's so much more than what I've just described. Even though I described quite a lot of it, there's so much more. And it was traumatizing to read, but absolutely amazing. It makes you question the society and the world, because how could we do this to each other and be so stubborn? But at the same time, it makes you grateful, and it makes you see things with a different light. So I highly recommend it. It's an amazing read. I did listen to it, but the physical copy of the book does have pictures in it as well, and that's something that the audiobook did not have. So that's something at book club, when the other women had the physical copy of the book, I was able to be like, what? There's pictures? And so I stole one of their books and leafed through it and looked at it and realized I don't really want to see the pictures. But at the same time, it's beautiful because you actually get to see these women, see how much pain they were in and things like that. And so read it. It's amazing. Just do it. Do it. Book number 5 is Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs? Big Questions from Tiny Mortals About Death by Caitlin Doughty. Oh my goodness, this was a hilarious read. This is one of those that I just kind of picked randomly off of Audible because I was trying to hurry and get to that 100 book goal I had for 2019. And it was pretty short on Audible, so I threw it in there, turned it on, and realized I was listening to a book narrated by the author, and it was about questions that children have actually asked her as a mortuary person. I know there's a better word for that, but I can't remember it. So anyway, and she's just answering these questions, like the question, will my cat eat my eyeballs if I die and nobody finds me for a few days? And she answers all these questions in such an educated and knowledgeable way. And she has the most amazing sense of humor about all of it. And I thought that was wonderful. Like, in the beginning, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I listening to? This is awful. I don't like listening about dead bodies. Oh, gross. Oh, gross. Ah, nasty. And then I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, that's a good question, kiddo. Yeah, tell me, what's the answer? And so she just goes through all these questions that she's received from children. And we all know how children are. Like, they tell the straight truth and say things you're kind of like, oh my goodness, I need to teach you why you can't say that to strangers in Walmart. Beautiful read. It was very fun. It was entertaining and a quick read. And I highly recommend it if you just want something fun and quippy and enjoying. That was what this book was for me. It turned like trying to rush through a bunch of books at the end of the year that I eventually gave up on and just decided to enjoy books into enjoyable. And I think this was the book that made it so I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore because that was fun. And I miss that about reading. I don't want to just like blah, 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 get a bunch of books just like thrown at me just to make a goal. So I recommend it. It's amazing. And the audiobook is beautiful because it's read by the author. And whenever that can happen, I think it's amazing. How about I say amazing like 10 more times? I just really enjoy when that happens because then you get the personality of the author mixed in with their words as well. And so go get it. It's amazing. Book number 6 is Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. I don't know about you guys, but I became absolutely obsessed with the Hamilton musical. I was late to the game. I got obsessed with it in 2019. Oh, actually, no, 2018. It was in 2018 because I would listen to it nonstop. And I remember when my husband and I went on our first family vacation all by ourselves as big kids, I was listening to it in the soundtrack. And then from the rest of the trip, he would look at me and be like, because I got it stuck in his head. And because I had heard the soundtrack and I loved that so much, I wanted to know more. And that's just how I am. I want to learn everything I can. So I decided to go to the source because it was the book that made it so Lin-Manuel Miranda wanted to write the musical. And so why not go to the same source that inspired the genius of the musical I loved? And so I read the book. It did take me almost half of 2019 to read it because it's very long, and I did listen to it. And so every once in a while you'd just be like, I can't do it. I can't do it. This is putting me asleep when I'm trying to keep motivated and stay awake while I'm driving or things like that. And so it was something that I took my dear sweet time with doing. And I always kind of have a book like that on my bookshelf in my Audible account on my phone, because it's something that if I need a break from a really scary book or a really intense book or a boring book, things like that, I have something that I know is keeping my interest, but it's just really, really time consuming to fall back on and to go back to. And so that's what this Hamilton book was. And finally, when I got to the era of after the Revolutionary War, that was about when I just decided it was time I needed to just plow through and finish the book. And I love that I read the book, and I love that I took the time to do it because it made listening to the musical that much more important to me. I was able to be like, oh yeah. When I heard the songs, I was able to know like how much it actually hurt him to go through those experiences, or how much he loved them, or I was able to kind of be cocky, you know, where you go, like when you've read the book and then you go watch the movie and you're like, they did that wrong. They did that wrong. I was able to kind of do that while listening to the musical again, because it was like, you know, there's a lot more that goes on in his childhood than half of the first song and things like that. And so it was sweet and beautiful, and I just think if you have the time or you want to take the time to dedicate reading that book and you love the musical, definitely do it. It was amazing. Okay, the last book is by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's called Good Morning, Good Night, and it's just tweets that he has published into a book that he posts on Twitter. They're just beautiful little sayings of him saying good morning to the world, to Twitter, and then saying good night to Twitter and the world. And somebody just compiled them, or maybe he did, I don't know, into a book. And he reads it in the Audible version, which, like I said, is one of my favorite things. And so you hear his sweet voice just saying, good morning, you're amazing. Good night, you're amazing. I love it. Whenever I'm feeling the blues or anything like that, that I just don't feel great about life, I turn that on and he says those beautiful little things, and it makes the world better because I think he is amazing, and he created wonderful things like In the Heights and Hamilton, and I love those. So I also love his book, and I love when you can get that kind of multi-purpose thing. With the first book I talked about, Yes Please by Amy Poehler, I had never watched Parks and Rec. I don't think I said this, but I had never watched Parks and Rec before I read her book. And then when I finished it, I watched Parks and Rec and absolutely loved it. And my husband was kind of bitter about it because he was like, you would never watch it with me. You would always get mad when I would watch it. And now you're watching it. And I was like, yeah, because I got it from the best source on why to watch it. The author of the book I read is the main character. So of course I'm going to read it because I loved the book and I loved her. And now it's fun because he loves it too. So we quote it constantly in our house. It's fun when our daughter will be like, are you watching Leslie Knope? Oh, I love that. So it's the same kind of thing with Good Morning, Good Night and the Hamilton musical. Like just things like that. My interest and my intrigue in that topic grew, and I was able to find other things that were on the same topic and learn more. And that's one of the things you'll find in almost every video that I talk about, how one thing led to another in my search for knowledge, really. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I sure enjoyed talking to you guys about these books. And if there's other books that you think I would like from this video, or anything really, leave it in the comments below and I'll look at it and definitely add it to my Goodreads want to read list. And if you haven't read any of these books, or maybe you've read one of them by one of the authors but you want to read another one, go try it. And if you're ready for a good nonfiction reads, I hope you can give one of these books a try. Definitely try Radium, girls. I mean, really, guys, it's amazing. All of them are amazing. Brene Brown, oh, she's awesome. And she's from Texas, so you get that entertaining little bit in there too. And so I recommend you try all these books, at least a couple of them. They're wonderful, and I hope you all have a great day. And if you want to come and follow me and get to see more of my personal life and the day-to-day things, follow me on Instagram, and I'll show my silliness over there as well. Otherwise, like, comment, and subscribe so you won't have to miss another beautiful video of mine. That's so cocky. Oh my goodness. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.